Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode here of On the FinSide with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the FanSided Network and FinFanatic.com. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is Fanatic_pick on Twitter. It is close to game day here. Tomorrow, the Dolphins play the Lions at Ford Field. They are 3.5-point favorites against Dan Campbell's 1-5 Lions. Fascinating football team with the Detroit Lions. And this, I don't think is your typical 1-5 team, Paul. I mean, this is a team that scored 140 points, 35 points a game in their first 4 games. And now over the last 2 games, they've scored only 6 points. So I really think either way, this could be a game that's going to take years off the lives of some Dolphins fans here.
It is. It's, Dan Campbell came out of the gate aggressive, which we're all familiar with that, but they have fallen off in a big way. And it was funny, even when they had scored 145 points, I believe at that point in time, they had allowed 147 or something, or some ridiculous number above it. So they had the most points in the league, but they also allowed the most points in the league by far with playing, let's face it, just terrible defense, and the terrible defense has not gone away.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't. And to put that in perspective, the Lions on defense are allowing 32.3 yards per game, points per game. And if you take that over an entire season, then only one team in the NFL in the last 41 years has allowed for the season over 32.3 points per game. Both of them are the Detroit Lions. I think it was 2020 and I think 1999 for the Lions. They allowed over 32.3 points per game. So yeah, not a good team defensively. They have some good players. Aiden Hutchinson, Jeff Okudah, former both top 3 picks, are really the stars of that defense, but outside of that, there's not a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, no, Aiden Hutchinson definitely is playing well. And a couple other members are doing okay, but overall, this is a defense that's going to give Miami's offense a chance to get right against them. I don't see Miami's weapons in this terrible defense struggling against a horrible Detroit Lions defense.
Yeah. So yeah, and this is something that, when you do look at the Lions defense here and the Dolphins coming in there, look, the Dolphins have scored over 21 points in just one game so far. And there are good reasons why they've only done that one time. They've had their quarterbacks out. They've played a game against Buffalo where they scored 21 and only had 33 plays during that game. So yeah, it's fascinating there. Because when you look at the Dolphins offense, I mean, people have asked me how have the Dolphins not scored more points? They're, like I said, there are a lot of reasons for that. Moving forward here, though, I just have to believe that when you have a quarterback, who has a quarterback rating of 105.9, when you have a running back in Raheem Mostert, who's averaging almost 5 yards a carry over the last 4 games when he's taken off. You have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, 2 top 4 receivers in receiving yards. You got Teron Armstead back. The offensive line has looked a lot better. I have to think the Dolphins start putting it together offensively and have a big output. And that's really got to start this week.
It does. And really, it's a weird thing. A lot of times you'll see a team have a lot of points, but struggle to pass the ball, struggle to run the ball, and they just happen to get in the end zone. And then you'll see, and that tends to normalize back out where the scoring starts to drop off for a lot of those teams. But then you'll see a team that is getting a lot of huge chunk yard plays, is, putting up a lot of yardage, but not quite finding the end zone. And that tends to normalize too. when you've got a receiver on pace for almost 2,000 yards, a receiver on pace for 1,500 yards, and you've got a running back like Mostert doing what he's doing, and you're going to see that normalize back out in terms of some of those plays are going to start hitting the end zone. So yeah, that's one that I expect to normalize for the Dolphins and see the point totals go up in a big way.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And defensively for the Lions, yeah, like I said, Jeff Okudah had the third overall pick of the 2020 draft, had a absolutely tumultuous start to his career. He was one of the worst cornerbacks in the league as a rookie. Then last year he gets hurt. This year he's played very well for them. On the other side of that, you know what? I really should have tried to remember the pronunciation of his name. The guy, the cornerback on the other side, Amari Awuzie, I think
Nope.
is. Darn it! What is? How do you pronounce it?
Aruwariye. You keep going back to Chidobe, babe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so on the other side, I don't care what you think about PFF, but out of 110 cornerbacks, he has 110th. So Aruwariye is going to go up against either Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, and that is a matchup the Dolphins.
He's no Jamal Perry, I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, Jamal Perry back in the fold. We'll see. But in addition to that, I mean, you've got some players out here this week too. Mike Hughes is out, their third cornerback. Juju Hughes, their fourth cornerback as well, not expected to play in this game. So whether it's Cedric Wilson, Trent Sherfield, River Craycraft, not only should the second cornerback be exposed, but also the nickel and dime backs here too.
No, they should be. And Miami likes to challenge all of the defensive backfield. This is one actually that I think Gesicki could end up having a good game attacking the seam, because they're going to be so focused on trying to help out against Waddle and Hill that I think Gesicki could have a big one. And this could also be a good breakout game for Cedric Williams if he's going to break out.
He's got to start doing something at some point and getting a little bit more. But I don't care what he's shown so far. He's too talented not to have some sort of role in this offense.
Well,
and
we've got to remember he's been playing hurt a lot of the year too. So
yeah, he has, and he's missed a few games. I mean, that's that he was returning punts last week, which I found a little bit weird. Can't get him on the field over River Craycraft. I don't know.
Craycraft's getting it done right now.
Is he?
Not Craycraft. Sorry, I'm thinking of Sherfield.
Sherfield, yeah, Sherfield had some big catches last week, and he's somebody who doesn't make a lot of mistakes when he's out there. So I can understand why they're leaning toward him a little more, especially with his familiarity in the offense. He came from San Francisco. I get it. But some sort of role needs to be carved out here for Cedric Wilson as we go forward. At safety too, they lost one of probably their third best defensive player here a couple of weeks ago, Tracy Walker, the safety. He's been replaced by Kirby Joseph, a rookie from Illinois, who looks pretty promising. At strong safety, they've got Deshaun Elliott, who they signed here in the offseason. Not a very fast player, though. So the safeties and Aruwariye they are not looking too strong there. So this is a game where, for a defense that is allowing a quarterback rating of 102.4 for the Lions, Tua 105.9 quarterback rating on the season, I would be extremely disappointed if this was not a big game for Tua and the Dolphins didn't put at least 28 points on the board here.
I'm looking for at least 30 in this one. This secondary is too easy to attack. You've got Raheem Mostert really starting to take off lately. And the defense the offensive line last week managed to allow 0 sacks against Pittsburgh, and is starting to come together a little bit. Now it's going to be very critical if Teron Armstead plays, because he's easily the best tackle in the league, in my opinion, when he's healthy. And that toe injury, that's just got me nervous. It's got me nervous because I don't want Aiden Hutchinson coming off that side if Teron Armstead isn't there. And
Well, I tell you, I'm not too nervous about it because this sounds like the first week in about a month here that doing this show. I'm very confident Armstead's going to play, and when Armstead does play, it's not a situation. He is. I don't know if it's a pain management thing, but if he can be questionable all week, not practice much, and go out there and just be an absolute pro. I mean, easily one of the best offensive tackles in the league, left tackles in the league when he's out there, no doubt about that. And Aiden, he's going to go up against Aiden Hutchinson sometimes, but the Lions, what they're doing with him, they're moving him around the defense. Sometimes he rushes from the interior. Oftentimes, and the majority of the time, he rushes over left tackle. Also, they move him to the left side to rush against the right tackle. So Brandon Shell is also going to be challenged in this game too. But if you can control Aiden Hutchinson, I don't see where a lot of the other pressure is going to come from. I mean, at defensive tackle, they've got Aleem McNeil, Michael Brocker is a veteran run stopper, and also too a familiar name that got on the field last week for the Lions, Benito Jones. And Benito Jones could be seeing a lot of action in this game, number 94 against his former team in the Dolphins.
He could. He's a guy that I was very sad to see leave. And, he's a guy that I think we've all talked about in the past as somebody we wanted to see find more ways to get on the field, and he's always been log jammed. So he's going to be an interesting one to watch. And the interesting thing is Javon Holland, by the way, has as many interceptions as the Detroit Lions do heading into this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to bring up the interception thing too, because they have not been a team that's getting a lot of takeaways on that defensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. It's so offensively, I'm very optimistic here heading into this game, and also not only are the Lions poor passing the ball, but also on the ground as well. The Lions to opposing starting running backs this year, averaging 5.83 yards a carry. So Raheem Mostert has looked very good in the last couple of games here. I would be extremely surprised if they did not get a lot done on the ground too. So just overall, if in this game, we leave this game and the Dolphins have put up 17, 20 points on the board, I'm going to start looking at this situation and saying, what in the hell is going on? Why can't we put more points on the board? But I don't expect us to be having that conversation. Tua, now, I gave him some grief last week because I look at the amount of dropped interceptions that he had against the Steelers game, and I think you kind of got lucky in that. Okay, I'm glad the Dolphins won, but overall, I don't want people to think I'm not. I think Tua is having a bad year or anything like that. It's not the case. I mean, you look at Tua, and I don't care which statistic that or website that you pick here. He's fourth in quarterback rating with 105.9. He is third in ESPN QBR with 71.8. PFF has him as the 10th best quarterback. Yards per attempt, and this is a big one, 8.6, which leads the league by almost half a yard. So yards per game to 259.2, which is ninth in the league. The TD to INT differential is 6, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, which is 8th in the league. Completion percentage, 67.3, which is 5th best. So now we get into the part of the schedule where, Paul, you've got the Lions, you've got the Browns, you've got the Texans, you've got a Chargers team that just lost JC Jackson for the year. If we crank up the gas here, I think we could be sitting here in a month saying Tua has taken a lot of the questions away, and this is our guy. I mean, I know a lot of people feel that way already, but in a month, we could say just about all of the rest of the doubt has been taken out.
We could. And one of the things too, and I'll share this out from around the FinSide account, is as good as Tua has been, I know you saw it as well. CK Parrott put out a great set of statistics that account for playing the fourth quarter from a quarterback. And he's one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL in the fourth quarter over the last 20 years, I think it was, off of CK's stats. I apologize, I don't have them right in front of me here.
Yeah, go on, go over and check that out. And it's and this is it here. I mean, I feel like we're on the cusp, and now the schedule is starting to soften a little bit, especially as it relates to the defenses the Dolphins are playing. Charles Harris will not be playing in this game. He's doing, last year he had a good season for the Lions. 8.5 sacks. This year he only has one through heading into week 8 here, and he's going to be injured for this game, so he's not playing. So, yeah. All
right. So CK put out yesterday an update on Tua's fourth quarter splits from 1994 to present. 243 quarterbacks with at least 100 fourth quarter attempts. Passer rating, number 2. Completion percentage, number 1. Touchdown percentage, pass and run, number 1. Interception avoidance percentage, 91st. Net yards per attempt, including sacks, 9th. First down percentage, pass and run, number 1. Sack avoidance percentage, 17th. Composite ranking, number 1. And that's as of 10/28, which was yesterday. And then his red zone splits from 94 to present, which there's 188 quarterbacks with at least 50 attempts in the red zone since 94. Passer rating, 26th. Completion percentage, 11th. Touchdown percentage, number 2. Interception avoidance, 48th. They don't include the yards per attempt and first down percentage in the red zone, obviously. Sack avoidance percentage, 15th. And his composite ranking was number 1, which I'll admit I was surprised at some of the height of his rankings. And this is something that's been pretty normalized since the middle of last season when he started to take off.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. He's getting close. And yeah, I mean, and you look at this game and getting Teron Armstead back, and really not a big pass rush threat for the Lions other than Aiden Hutchinson, and not a great coverage option for the Lions other than Jeff Okudah. And yeah, this should be a big game for Tua. On the defensive side of the ball, Paul, look, the Lions, it's so weird. 140 points in the first 4 games and just 6th in the last 2 games. Now, it needs to be pointed out too that in the last 2 games for the Lions on offense, they did not have DeAndre Swift. They did not have Amon-Ra St. Brown either. Amon-Ra St. Brown was taken out of the game by a spotter last week. That it was a little bit more obvious because he got hit in the head and he got up and he was actually wobbling, unlike Teddy Bridgewater, but he did not actually have a concussion. But he was in concussion protocol here until Thursday. He should be playing in this game, and he caught 90 passes last year as a rookie. And this year he looked even better before he got injured. DeAndre Swift at running back. I mean, they've got a great 1-2 combo with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. On the year, 119 rushes, 5.4 yards a carry. This is one of the better running teams in the league. So the Dolphins need to be up to the task here. So it's going to be a big game for Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins, and Raekwon Davis inside.
It will be. And it's going to be a big game for the linebackers here because you have to scrape and fill against this team. You have to play the run against this team. And the interesting thing for me is going to be as well, not just the running game, but Matthew Stafford, or not Matthew Stafford, Jesus Christ, Jared Goff. The last time he played the Dolphins was when he went from being one of the better quarterbacks in the league to a quarterback that had been solved and just hasn't been able to get it done overall since. And this could be something where the Dolphins come in with a hell of a lot of confidence in this one. And really get that chance to continue what they did last week and start picking the ball off and beating the ass off the guy into the turf.
Yeah, and that's a common tongue slip there. Matt Stafford played for the Lions for 12 years, so
I know.
it's hard. But yeah, Jared Goff. Yeah, the Dolphins played them almost 2 years to the date here when he was with the Rams, like you said. And if you look at the box score for that game, you might look at that and say, wait a minute, Jared Goff had 355 yards passing in that game. What are you guys talking about? But the truth is, the Dolphins were beating them 28-3 in the middle of the second quarter. So everything else was really junk points up to that. I mean, the Rams only had 10 points on the board, late in the game. So and that was all, to me, the birth of the Dolphins' success with the cover zero defense. And Xavier Howard's questionable in this game. It has some other off the field stuff that is coming to light too, that we're not really prepared to talk about at this point. But he is still playing hurt. And on the other side, though, the Dolphins are going to be getting Keon Cross and Kader Kohu back. And I think that's big because, look, Noah Igbenogany, good for him for the game-winning interception. I still don't think the guy's any good. I'm sorry. So,
I mean, I'm not sold yet, but and I think Keon Cross and Kader Kohu are better right now. So,
yeah, I'd rather have obviously Xavier Howard, Keon Cross, and Kader Kohu, and as well as Justin Bethel ahead of Noah out there. I mean, hey, made a huge play last week, and he will always be remembered for that play, even if his career does not keep ascending from this point forward. But yeah,
his first interception, as somebody pointed out in chat, came against a team with Brian Flores as the coach, which I'm happy about.
Yep. Well, yeah, a positional coach, a mediocre positional coach for a 2-5 football team. But yeah. So on the season, Goff's numbers aren't bad. 62.3% completion percentage, over 1,500 yards passing, 90.6 quarterback rating. He's also somebody too that I think the Dolphins would be wise to try to put him in a spot where he is, where the Patriots had success against Jared Goff, where he had the terrible game and the Patriots won 29-0. What they were doing is they were taking away his top option, which in that game was Hawkinson, because St. Brown was out, and also taking away the check down option too, which was making Goff throw the ball into tight spaces. And that's where the Dolphins need to be. When I look at Jared Goff, the word that comes to mind is disruptible. When the Dolphins, we saw that when the Dolphins played the Rams a couple of years ago with that blitz, if he's not able to get into his play action game, to throw in rhythm, he is not somebody that plays very well when you get him off his spot. That's got to be the focus here. The Dolphins have to remember what they did 2 years ago.
They do, and they need to hit him early and often, and like you said, take away his top options. And if they can mitigate the running game as well, it's going to be a long, long, long day for Jared Goff.
Yep, and fascinating matchup too is Jalen Phillips is starting to string together several really good games here, and he's passed several tests this year. I mean, he's gone up against some high first round picks. He went up against Jonah Williams, who's a decent left tackle, and definitely got the better of him. Got the better of Christian Darrisaw, a really good former first round left tackle. And here last week, it went up against Dan Moore, not all that great, but I thought he was phenomenal in that game. I gave him my player of the game for how he played there against the Steelers. This week he goes up against Penei Sewell, and Penei Sewell has had a really solid start to his career. A good left tackle out there, on the cusp of greatness. So, two young, very talented players battling it out. And Phillips needs to be up to the challenge here, because outside of that, the Dolphins are still seeking that pass rush threat. Ogba's been playing hurt this year, has not had a great season. Obviously, Andrew Van Ginkel came back, and I thought he had his best game in a long time. So, yeah, that Sewell and that Phillips matchup is one to watch.
It is, and actually, I want to go back to one thing you had mentioned before because I had missed this in the. Oh, never mind. You brought up Juju Hughes is going to start for Deshaun Elliott because that's actually pretty huge.
Oh, I thought Juju Hughes was out. That was my mistake.
It's Deshaun Elliott that's out.
Oh, okay.
So
thank you.
Juju's going to start in his place. It looks like, but yeah. Deshaun Elliott's actually downgraded to out, which Deshaun has one of the 2 interceptions for the Lions, and I believe he's also their leading tackler, which makes his game even more intriguing. He is their leading tackler as well.
So one thing our listeners might be wanting to know is, why are you wearing lion blue today? I mean, what are you trying to tell people?
I'm not telling them anything other than I'm nice and fashionable.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not too happy with my selection either, because I got this. It's a Dolphin sweatshirt here, but when I look in the mirror, it says, and you probably see it too on your end, it says AIM. So, and
no, it says MIA for me, but like it's funny because it looks like a black shirt that says you're just missing in action. Like,
that's funny. Exactly. My wife said the exact same thing when I came down the stairs. She goes, MIA, does that mean missing in action? I was
that's your wife, the Chiefs fan, correct?
That's correct.
She's going to talk a lot of trash in a week that they traded for. Oh God, I'm drawing a complete blank.
Kadarius Toney. Yeah, they sure did. That'll be a fascinating. I think that
was a fantastic
very intriguing
trade for the Chiefs.
I think that's very intriguing to watch. I mean, Toney. Yeah, it never made sense for the Giants. He did not fit, and then they replaced him with Wan'Dale Robinson here in this past draft.
You put a volatile, talented receiver with a mediocre, boring milquetoast quarterback, like in New York with that. Like,
my wife and I had our 5-year anniversary yesterday, and she bought me
happy anniversary.
Thank you. Bought me Dolphin shoes. So,
the new ones.
Yes.
Nice.
So, see, I never wanted to buy the Dolphin shoes because I was like, I'm only going to wear them like on game day. I'm not going to wear them every day, but they're an awesome gift. Anyway, where were we here? So, I there are 2 things that go back and forth in my mind. I'm like, man, when the Lions had DeAndre Swift and they had Amon-Ra St. Brown on offense, man, they were good. But also the Dolphins have been great. The Dolphins have been, the Dolphins have been great against Jared Goff in the past here, and Jared Goff's not great against these cover 0 type defenses if the Dolphins care to play that. So I'm going back and forth between the Lions are going to score a lot of points against the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are just going to overwhelm Goff again. So I don't know.
I keep going back and forth between the Dolphins are going to score an amazing amount of points and the Dolphins are going to overwhelm Goff. And then I go, wait, they can still do both. And the 2 will feed off of each other. So I expect Miami to put up an amount of points in this game that acts as a crushing ability for the Lions to be able to keep their heads in it. And we can all say that emotion doesn't play a role. It's, you go out and you line up and when you're getting the pants beat off of you, it starts to get contagious in that game. And you can see it at times. You see it with almost any NFL team. It's Miami starts beating the pants off the Lions early. It is going to turn into an avalanche in this one.
Well, if the Lions are able to have success early, obviously I'm going to be pretty worried as this game progresses here. The Lions are when they do well, they're typically a fast start team. The Dolphins on the road have not been this year. I mean, they're down 12-0 against the Jets. They come out against the Bengals and they, Chase Edmonds drops the touchdown, and the Dolphins, even when Tua went down in the Bengals game, they lost. They were losing at the time. Against the Ravens, obviously they got down big early. This kind of attitude that Mike McDaniel has had, who I love, with the media of, hey, we just it's an opportunity to overcome this adversity. It's like we need some fast starts on the road here. We need to come out blazing on the road sometimes, not playing catch up and being the hero at the end of the game. So the Lions they feel like they're due for a win here. They're 1-5. But they have some explosiveness on offense if they can get in rhythm. So, and the Lions owner came out this week and publicly defended Dan Campbell, but you dropped to 1-6, and it's starting to look like a 3 or 4 win season for the Lions. Nah, Dan Campbell may be getting the heave ho.
Well, he probably brought Dan Campbell in his office to chastise him, and Dan Campbell instead chastised him to the point he came out and publicly supported him. So let's face it.
Yeah.
I mean, no. And one thing to think about with those slow starts is I go back to something Peyton Manning talked about a few years ago, right after he retired. And he talked about they came out against, I can't remember which team it was, and they just threw the same things at them for like a whole quarter that they knew weren't going to work. Absolutely knew were not going to work. But what they did was they completely manipulated the other team into moving around and expecting it out of those looks that they were throwing the whole first quarter. And then they came back out and suddenly went a completely different direction out of the same look and annihilated them the rest of the way. So yeah, I don't want to be in a 21-point hole in the fourth quarter, but if we come out for a drive or two and don't necessarily get it done, well, okay, I'm not going to freak out. Although I will say Miami's first drive last week, they came out strong. They came out fast. They came out hitting the field. And that's something I want to see from this team moving forward.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Dolphins put together a complete game yet. I mean, really, I think the most complete game was week 1 against the Patriots, but since then they've either lost or have had to play catch up. And except for last week, they were ahead the whole time. So but still the second half of that game, the Dolphins didn't score a point. Thankfully, neither did the Steelers. So, yeah, I'm a huge Josh Boyer fan, and so he's gotten some flack this year. I think he's called very good game plans here, and he's had to deal with Emmanuel Ogbah not having a great year. He's had to deal with all the defensive back injuries, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Brandon Jones, obviously all on reserve, not playing in this game, but players have stepped up. And at strong safety, Eric Rowe is going to replace Brandon Jones. Hopefully that's not too big of a drop off. And at cornerback, you're healthier there than you've been in several weeks. So I'm encouraged there too.
Any defensive coordinator, they got to start at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. Should be the guy that's engineering a wonderful defense for us.
If you say so. The Dolphins still have their 2 best players in their secondary, Xavier Howard and Javon Holland. Holland is a couple of big plays away, I think, from earning his first Pro Bowl this season here. He's when he's attacking and he's moving forward and he's able to sniff routes out, that's when he's at his best spot. So
you mean Pro Bowl skills challenge and video game or whatever the heck it is now?
Yeah, which I like. I've been saying for years, get rid of the Pro Bowl game. The Pro Bowl is the only game in football that I have never watched. I will watch a preseason game. I'll watch a scrimmage when the intent is to actually do well. If in those preseason games, you could say they're meaningless. For 20 guys in that game, it's the most important game of their life. That's still exciting. The Pro Bowl, you're just trying not to get hurt. That's it.
I would watch the Pro Bowl in its traditional format if Dan Campbell was coaching one of the teams, because this sissy tag off thing would be getting guys yanked off the field and he wouldn't care who they are and he'd be screaming at them to hit people all week. And one team would just come out and just beat the crap out of the other team in the first quarter. And then you'd see a real football game.
I remember back in the 90s, if you remember a player named Kevin Gogan, he was with the Dolphins
Yes.
for 1 year. He's at the Pro Bowl getting into fights and hitting people after the whistle. I'm like, okay, this is more like football. But ever since Kevin Gogan left the NFL 20 years ago,
No,
yeah,
there was a safety in the mid 2000s that came flying up and started lighting people on fire, and I can't think of who it was off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look.
yeah,
I'll take a look before next week.
yeah. So Paul,
So real quick though, we had one question that I do want to touch on because it's something we've talked about a little bit before. Joe Holt asked in chat about how he looks and sees. Sometimes he feels like it might be Tua that's missing the receiver, but other times he feels like the receiver may have run a different route than we were expecting at the quarterback position. And in reality, it is the truth to your answer when or the truth to your question when you ask that is it's both. We've seen both scenarios. Tua has missed receivers, and we've seen some very blatant plays where the receiver was at fault. So it really is both situations. It's one of those both can be true moments.
yeah, it depends on the play. I mean, I'm just as an example against the Steelers. I mean, you saw that on the all-22 where there was a one play where Jalen Waddle. I mean, if Tua had just waited for another half second, Jalen Waddle would have been wide open on a crossing route, and he instead buried the ball into Tyreek Hill. I can kind of understand that given the rust and given how it's probably been drilled into his head.
Yeah, so Cat just froze a little bit. So that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We were just about to wrap it up anyway. I'm going to go ahead and give my score prediction here. I think this is an absolute blowout in this one. I think Miami wins this one 35-17. I mean, the Lions do have a few skill players, but at the end of the day, I think Miami gets it done. And that's a scenario that I think we're all going to be happy to see. Now, I personally will have to watch the game on a tape delay because we will be playing with the 11U team that I've got for the number 1 seed tomorrow in the playoffs in the final week of our regular season. So I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, but I'm hoping that I get to celebrate pretty quickly and early with you guys after the fact. And looks like we got Cat back here. So, but yeah, no, 35-17 is my prediction for the game here.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a little drop off there. 35-17. Yeah, I'm going to go 37-27 Dolphins here. They've got to win this here. I know a lot of these you've got to win, but I look at the last time the Dolphins went to Detroit in 2014. That was the one-handed Brent Grimes interception game. The Lions got up 10-0. Grimes had the INT. And then late in the game, the Dolphins, after getting down 10-0, Dolphins were winning 20-16, I think it was, with just 30 seconds left. Theo Riddick catches a touchdown from Stafford. The Dolphins, instead of going to 6-3, they fall to 5-4. And then throughout the rest of the year, they win one, they lose one, and at the end of the year, they miss the playoffs by a game at 8-8. I don't want that to happen this year. And so if the Dolphins get to 5-3, then next week at Chicago, I'm going to the game. So, they're going to win that. They're going to be 6-3. And then you've got 2 games against the Texans and the Browns at home. We're looking at 7-4, 8-3 after 11 games, getting into the tougher part of the schedule. So that's where the Dolphins need to be. And that's going to do it for our breakdown of the Lions-Dolphins matchup here, taking place at noon Central Time, 1 Eastern tomorrow. I'm Brian Cat NFL, Paul's Fanatic_pick. Follow us on the FinSide on Twitter, Facebook, all of our social media outlets, as well as the FanSided Network and Fin